The Texas Rangers just won the World Series, which means the 2024 offseason has officially started. So today we're going to predict where some of the top free agents are going to go, make some mock trades for some of the top trade candidates, and then we got a few surprises you might want to stick around for. Starting out with free agents. Our first free agent is Clayton Kershaw, one of the best pitchers of our generation, but he did announce on Instagram that he did have surgery on I think his shoulder, and he'll be back at some point in 2024. So a very vague timeline. He'll probably be out till at least the All-Star break, if not longer. So really, there's not too many options for him, in my opinion. You got the obvious one in the Dodgers, and then this is the third straight year he's been a free agent. This team's come up every single time, and it's his hometown team, the Texas Rangers. Rangers now, though, have more of a shot than ever before to actually sign him. They've showed they're willing to spend the bag on free agents. They have the last two off seasons, and they're just coming off the World Series victory, which could entice Clayton Kershaw to leave and go sign with them. That's something the Dodgers can't do. We don't count 2020. But ultimately, I think he goes back to the Los Angeles Dodgers on a one-year deal worth $20 million. The Rangers in the past year signed Jacob deGrom to a mega contract last offseason, and they traded for Max Scherzer at the deadline, and he'll be back on a one-year deal next year. But both are similar to Kershaw in the fact that they're Hall of Fame pitchers, but they are battling injuries as they get into their late 30s. So I can't see a team like the Rangers wanting to go out and sign Kershaw to a pretty expensive one-year deal and all of a sudden have three pitchers in your rotation with injury concerns. Now we get into some of the bum free agents, starting out with Harrison Bader. This man just gets so hyped up at times for no reason at all, and I don't get it. Good defender, but he is not that great of a player. He's coming off two really bad seasons where he struggled with injuries, so I could see him sign a one-year deal with a rebuilding team to try and get some value back. A team like the Nationals, for example. Nationals also just let go of Victor Robles, a former top prospect, so they could use some additional outfield help, and he's not going to be very expensive. While Harrison Bader may have a noodle bat, teams looking for power should go out and sign Hunter Renfroe. I mean, this man's been in like 6 teams in 3 years. I don't know if that's true. It's something crazy like that. But he's got big time power and a cannon of an arm. And a team that really needs some offense is the Cleveland Guardians. Guardians need another middle of the lineup bat to protect Jose Ramirez. Hunter Renfroe at least brings some fear factor into it. Jack Flaherty was once considered one of the best young starting pitchers in all of baseball. And then the injuries started to happen. And when he would come back from those injuries, he just was not effective anymore. He has had a very rough last 2 years. So bad to a point that the Orioles, who traded for him at the deadline, took him out of their rotation completely for the playoffs. Jack Flaherty's an interesting free agent though, because he is only 28 years old. He's not going to cost a lot of money. So I could see him doing a one-year deal, a 1 year plus club option, or a 2-year deal to try to regain some of that value, get to free agency by the time he's 30, and maybe get a bigger contract. A surprise team that I think makes a ton of sense for him though is the Milwaukee Brewers. The Brewers this offseason in their pitching department alone could lose Brandon Woodruff for all of 2024 due to a shoulder injury. Adrian Hauser could be non-tendered. Wade Miley already declined his mutual option. He's a free agent. And there's always the possibility Corbin Burns could finally get traded. So 5 of your top 6 starting pitchers options from a year ago could not be on the team anymore. Leading the rotation is Freddie Peralta, Aaron Ashby coming off injury, possibility of a bunch of rookies, Colin Ray. The rotation needs work. So a small market team like the Brewers, who don't want to spend a ton of money but still want to compete, I could see him taking a flyer on Jack Flaherty. Jeimer Candelario had the best season of his career last year, starting off with the Tigers, getting traded to the Cubs, having success there, almost leading them to the playoffs. And the Cubs just spent big money on Craig Counsell, so I could see him finally opening up the checkbook for free agents this year and maybe bringing Candelario and Belly back. But at least in this instance, I think Candelario is going to have a pretty big market for like that B tier of hitters in this class. It's not going to cost $100 million to sign, but he's still going to be very productive for any team he goes to. So a team like the Toronto Blue Jays, who have a legit World Series window right now, he's still decently young. He fits into that young nucleus, and he's going to be significantly cheaper and younger than their pending free agent Matt Chapman. His bat also might be a little bit better than Chapman, who obviously has the edge with the glove. Marcus Stroman's legit. He's going to have a wide cast of suitors who are looking for a frontline starting pitcher, but I have this crazy theory about where he ends up going. Marcus Stroman is as woke as anybody I've ever met. Okay, I've never met him, but you follow him on Twitter and shit, he's pretty woke. I don't like to get politics involved too much, but I do think he ends up going to a blue state in need of pitching. Like, I just can't see Marcus Stroman going to a conservative state like Florida Florida or something like that. And what's more of a liberal state than California? Do you know which team in California desperately needs pitching? Well, it's both LA teams. But in this instant, the Los Angeles Angels finally get a frontline starter and can hopefully lead Mike Trout to the playoffs. They've tried so hard with pitching, just getting random ass free agents, and it just never pans out for them. Finally break the bank and sign a starting pitcher with legit upside. Marcus Stroman's legit. Now we got Big Hit Whit. Whit Merrifield started off his career so good. He was just a classic hitter, getting 200 plus hits. Then the last couple of years, he's been a below average hitter. I don't know what's happened. I think he goes to the Chicago White Sox. They just declined the option on TA, making him a free agent, and they really need some infield help. Yeah, not much to say on Whit. Now we got Yariel Rodriguez, a 27-year-old relief pitcher turned starter from like the Japan, Cuba area. I don't fucking know. Okay, I'm gonna be honest, I have no idea who the hell this guy is. Apparently, he pitched in the Japan League and was very effective there as a reliever. And then he pitched for the Cuba team in the WBC last year as a starter and was really good. And didn't go back to Japan last year. So I know nothing about this guy, but he's young, and he's gonna want to sign with a team that's gonna offer him the bag. What better team do that than the New York Yankees, who could probably use some additional rotation help considering Rodon was terrible last year. Frank Montez, who knows what the situation with him's gonna be. So I could see him going after a guy like this. Lucas Giolito struggled last year. This man played for 3 different teams. He started off with the White Sox and was actually really good with them. Had like a 3.8 ERA and was very effective. Then he got traded to the Angels in what was one of the worst deadlines I've ever seen by a team in MLB history. Had about a 7 ERA there, and the Angels fell out of the playoff race. He got put on waivers and signed with the Cleveland Guardians. He went there. He was even worse with the 7 ERA. So all that in 12 starts boosted his ERA from a 3.8 to a 4.88. He also had 15 losses. Just an atrocious final 2 months for him. Year before that, he also struggled as well. He was very effective the previous 3-4 years before, but the last 2 years he's been ineffective. So I'm not exactly sure what kind of contract he's going to end up getting on the free agent market. The free agent starting pitching class is decent, but it's not anything crazy. So I could see a team coming out who doesn't want to spend a ton of money on those top end free agents and maybe giving him a shot on a 2-year deal. And one team I expect to be very active in the free agent pitching market is the St. Louis Cardinals. Their offense is stacked from top to bottom, but man, their rotation's so ass, it is holding them back big time. And what is a very, very weak NL Central division, especially if the Brewers decide to go on a mini rebuild, it's wide open for a team like the Cardinals or the Cubs if they make the necessary moves to compete next year. So I do think the Cardinals will end up starting at least 1, if not 2 starting pitchers from this class. I got Lucas Giolito going to them. One of the more interesting free agents this year is Rhys Hoskins. He had a knee injury that kept him out all of last year, and the Phillies did not give him a qualifying offer, so he's a free agent that can sign with any team. While he could always go back to Philly, they almost made the World Series last year without him, so I could see him allocating some of that money towards something else. Before last year, Rhys Hoskins was good for just about 30 home runs this season, and the dude mashed. But coming off a major injury, I could see teams being hesitant to give him a long-term contract, so I could see him signing a 1-year prove-it deal this year to see if he's the same player he was pre-injury. And one team who loves those prove-it deals is small market teams like the Milwaukee Brewers, who desperately need corner infield help. Rowdy Tellez was a disaster last year. I expect him to get non-tendered. So there's a hole at first base, and really the only internal option that they have is Tyler Black, who I could see him moving over to third base to make room for somebody like Hoskins. And the Brewers have done these 1-year prove-it deals in the past, similar to with Yasmani Grandal and Mike Moustakas. Sign him to a 1-year deal worth about $17 million. See if he can come back, hit you 30 home runs with an 850 OPS, and then he'll get the bag next offseason. Moving on to another masher, we got Teoscar Hernandez. He played last season with the Mariners and had a pretty decent year. I really like Teoscar Hernandez for a team who really needs offensive help, so somebody like the Brewers, like the Giants, like the Guardians, teams like that. But I have him going to the NL champs Arizona Diamondbacks. Lourdes Gurriel's a free agent, so they really need a DH. Teoscar Hernandez isn't a good defender, or a right fielder, because you got Jake McCarthy out there, who isn't that great. Teoscar Hernandez offensively might even be an upgrade over Lourdes. Coming to Arizona Arizona, he could come in and hit you 30 home runs. Now we got another player. I have no idea who this is. Shota Imanaga. Shota started the gold medal game for Team Japan last year in the WBC versus Team USA. And this year he had a 2.66 ERA in Japan's league. He averages more than a strikeout per inning, and he's been very good since about 2016. The only knock on him is he is already 30 years old. So similar to the last Japanese guy we talked about, this guy, he's just gonna go to the team that offers him the most money. He really only has one chance to secure the bag in the MLB. One team who has done that in the past with some of these international stars that get posted is the Seattle Mariners. Why not boost up their rotation a little bit, get Logan Gilbert, get Robbie Ray, and see if he can come over and be as effective as he is in Japan. If he's anything close to that, he's gonna be a very good sign. Tonight we got Monday Night Football, so here are my underdog picks for the night. Be sure to go check out Underdog Fantasy and use code Bkindel, and they will match your first deposit up to $100. That's free money. Link down in the description. We just talked about Teoscar Hernandez signing with the Diamondbacks to replace Lourdes Gurriel. Now let's talk about where Lourdes is going to end up signing. He was part of that Dalton Varsho trade, and the Arizona Diamondbacks fleeced it. Gabriel Moreno won a Gold Glove and was very solid offensively. Plus, they signed Lourdes Gurriel, who set a career high in home runs with 24 and had a 108 OPS plus. So, very solid season. He'll go to another offensive needy team who needs outfield help. We already talked about like the Brewers, the Giants, the Guardians, but I think he goes to the Miami Marlins. The Marlins finally had a solid season. They made the playoffs. They have all the rotation pieces in the world on their major league roster and in their minor league system. They're very good in the rotation. Offense just needs some work. Lourdes Gurriel is in a major move shifting piece, but he's definitely going to help the Marlins out. Bro, there's way too much potential for these random players. I have no idea who to get posted this year. Next up, we got an offensive Japanese guy in Jang-Ho Lee. He is a center fielder in the KBO. The difference is this guy's only 25 years old. He won the 2022 KBO MVP, played for Team Korea in the WBC, in which he hit 429. 429 against all the best players in the world. That's impressive. And in his 7 seasons in Korea, he has a 340, 407, and 491 slash line, while also being a pretty solid defender at a premium position in center field. I know nothing else about him besides what I just read, no scout report or anything like that, but those hitting stats in the KBO, that's legit. He's also only 25 years old and plays good defense, so I think a huge line of teams could be in line to sign this guy. And one of those teams the last 2 off seasons who has been in on the big name bats but has just failed to sign him has been the San Francisco Giants, and that's where I think he goes. 2 years ago, it was rumored that they had to deal with Aaron Judge. That didn't happen. He went to the Yankees. Then they actually signed Carlos Correa for a couple hours before concerns about his medical came out, and he ended up going to like the Mets or something. The Giants have some young guys on the come up, good rotation pieces. They just got to piece the offense together. And if this guy is anything like he played in the WBC or the KBO, oh, he's going to be legit as hell. So with this free agency prediction, I'm going to do one that I thought was about to happen at the trade deadline, but I could just be making it up. And that's Eduardo Rodriguez going to the Baltimore Orioles. The Baltimore Orioles are so back. They are so close to being a World Series caliber team. And the crazy part is not even close to all their top prospects dropped. They still have the #1 farm system in baseball. The Orioles are going to be good for a long time, and they're here to stay. And you still got Kauser, Herstag, some guy named Jackson Holiday, Samuel Basallo, Joey Ortiz, so many guys who still need to get experience at the big league level. But one thing that they don't really have in their major league team or in the minor league system is they need a top-end starting pitcher. Grayson Rodriguez could have a better year than he did this past year. They also saw some guys have some huge improvement years. But Erod is coming off his best season to date at a 3.5 WAR, a 3.3 ERA, and really showed some from the rotation stuff. He is 30 years old, so a little bit older, but he could be the missing piece that the Orioles need to boost their World Series odds. I really hope the Orioles go out and sign a big-name starting pitcher this offseason. Now we got another power bat and solar power with Jorge Soler, a World Series MVP 2 years ago. He had 36 home runs last year. He's one of the main reasons the Marlins actually were relevant and made a playoff run. Not a playoff run, but at least made the playoffs. That's pretty damn good for them. Why not do the same for another team that desperately needs offseason? We talked about Jang-Ho Lee going to the Giants. Why not have Jorge Soler join him, signing with the San Francisco Giants to be their new DH? This man can't play a lick of defense, but he can hit. You sign these two pieces, and all of a sudden the Giants offense, if you get some bounce bounce-back seasons from Mitch Haniger and Michael Conforto, they're looking pretty good. I like the fit here a lot. In this prediction, I have the Blue Jays signing their Matt Chapman replaces with Jeimer Candelario. So now where's Matt Chapman gonna go? Me being a Brewers fan, I really prayed that Mark Anastasio would open up the checkbook and bring in a guy like this. A guy with some decent power seasons and play some of the best third base in all of baseball. But that's wishful thinking. The Diamondbacks are close, man. I have him going to the Arizona Diamondbacks. They had Rivera and Evan Longoria starting third base on a World Series team last year. They need better production there. They only won 84 games last year, so even though they made the World Series, I still believe they need to go out and sign big-time pieces to have a chance to do it again. That's why we have Teoscar Hernandez going there, provide some power. And they've already come out and said that they want to sign a third baseman this year. Why not get the best one available, signing Matt Chapman, lock him up for the next 5 years. I don't think he'll cost right around $100 million over the course of 5 years, which is very reasonable for a guy who is capable of hitting 20 to 30 home runs and playing elite level defense. I think this is a very good fit. With all the young talent coming through the Diamondback system, we'll see Jordan Lawler for a full year next year, and also having a great 1-2 punch in Zach Allen and Merrill Kelly. Who knows? We could see him repeat as NL champs. JD Martinez had a bounce back season last year with the Los Angeles Dodgers. He could always resign there, but this prediction, I have him going to the New York Mets. Mets offense is good. It just needs something in it. Why not add another run producer? Sign JD Martinez. One of the most underrated pitchers in baseball over the past couple of years is Jordan Montgomery. He had a great year last year and helped the Rangers win a World Series where in the playoffs, he was locked down. He is going to secure the bag over that alone. A lot of teams are going to be on him. It's already rumored the Red Sox have talked to his agent. That makes a lot of sense. But one team I talked about the possibility that they could finally spend money this year is the Chicago Cubs. And I believe they add one big rotation piece and one big bat to that lineup. They signed Craig Counsell to a $40 million deal. They also have one of the better farm systems in baseball. I don't think you sign a manager to that large of a contract if you're not willing to spend a little bit more in free agency. It doesn't make that much sense to open a checkbook for a manager, but not for players that can help your team. So I think the shift in Cubs baseball is changing a little bit. They lost Marcus Stroman. They brought back Kyle Hendricks. Adding Jordan Montgomery replaces the loss of Stroman and gives him a guy who's very consistent with a 3.3 to 3.5 ERA every year and is going to give you very solid innings. So this one, I'm unsure if it's going to happen. I just really hope it does because this team's also very close to competing. Sonny Gray the past 2 years with the Minnesota Twins has been amazing. First year, 3.08 ERA. Second year, he's even better, 2.79 ERA, which also included an all-star appearance. The team he ended up coming from was the Cincinnati Reds, where he pitched for 3 years, including 2 very good ones. Well, the Reds are somewhat sort of back. They can hit, but the rotation needs pieces bad. So why not a little bit of a family reunion here, having Sonny Gray signed with the Cincinnati Reds on a 3-year deal. Reds get atop the rotation piece. They'll still have a very low payroll, which is what the owner wants. They got all the offensive talent in the world. And as talked about previously with the Cardinals looking to add pitching, this NL Central is wide open. There's no clear favorite. One team adds the necessary pieces this offseason. Even a team like the Pirates, they could make a run at the division crown. And we got Josh Hader. So being a Brewers fan, I love Josh Hader, but he did become a little bit of a head case in the fact that he's like, I'm not pitching anything but the 9th inning. He didn't want to pitch more than the 3 outs necessary. And when he was most successful, and when the team was most successful, is when he was in that swingman role, where he would just face the most important situation in the entire game and shut it down. Regardless of my opinions on him, he is still one of the best relief pitchers in all of baseball. There's not too many pitchers out there that get 15 Ks per night. So it's safe to say some team this offseason is going to sign him to a very large contract. Is it going to be Edwin Diaz large where it's $100 million plus? I don't know. I personally don't think relievers are worth spending that kind of investment on, but they're definitely valuable. Go to a team like the Rangers, a team that just won the World Series, show they were willing to spend money on players that help them out. Corey Seager, Mark Semien, Jacob deGrom, even though he didn't really help out much last year. Take on the contract of Max Scherzer. Why not get a guy to lock down the 9th inning for you so you can move Jose Lecrae over to a setup role? It's kind of one thing on their team that they really don't have too much of, is their bullpen's just kind of shaky. So why not get the best possible reliever that you can? Now we get into the top 5 free agents available, starting out with Aaron Nola. Aaron Nola finished 4th in Cy Young voting last year after a very good season that helped the Phillies make the World Series. And that's coming off a year where he struggled in 2021. But then he regressed big time this year and struggled again. 2 of the last 3 years for him have just not been that good in terms of the contract he's going to get, in terms of being a frontline pitcher. Just hasn't been that, but he's going to give you a lot of innings, and he does have that ace-like stuff. So once again, you're going to go to a team that needs frontline starters, and one team we already talked about that ends up signing Lucas Giolito that really needs some pitching help and they can contend is the St. Louis Cardinals. You sign Lucas Giolito, you sign Aaron Nola, maybe get a few other pieces along the way, are hoping that some guys have some bounce back seasons. The Cardinals can contend again, but they finally get an ace. Say what you want, but a 42-year-old Adam Wainwright who's been their ace the past 3 years is not it. They haven't had a true number one starter in what seems like a very long time. In this offseason, I could see that changing. So Aaron Nola ends up leaving Philly to go play for the Cardinals. What does Philly do to replace him? Why not get this year's Cy Young favorite in Blake Snell? He's going to be expensive, probably between the $150 and $200 million range. Blake Snell just did not allow any hits, giving up only 5.8 hits per nine this year, which is almost as much as his walks per nine at 5. That's something he did struggle with. But Blake Snell, only being 30 years old, is about to win his second Cy Young award, and has been very good the past 2 years. Philadelphia signed Trey Turner last year. Before that, Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber, Castellanos. Having a big payroll does not scare them. Made the World Series last year, almost made it again this year. Think they want to continue that trend? And you're going to have to replace Nola if you let him walk somehow. And Blake Snell's one of the better options available to do so. I don't know what happened, but Cody Bellinger last year finally figured it out again, having a 4.4 WAR in 307 with 26 home runs. With how bad he was the previous 2 years, he's only 27 years old, and after last season, he's definitely going to get a big-time contract. A lot of suggestions say the New York Yankees, but we've talked about the Cubs a lot and how they could potentially spend. They signed Jordan Montgomery. I think they do end up bringing back Cody Bellinger. Him being young fits in with that nucleus that they have coming through the system, and he was so good for them last year that I just can't see him or them wanting to let him get away. I also think the Cubs will add some lesser bats along the way too, but I think bringing back Cody Bellinger should be priority number one for them. Now we get into the top two, with the number 2 being Yusei Yamamoto. God damn, I suck at reading. He is 25 years old, so extremely young still. He's won the Pacific League MVP and the Sawamura Award. Can't really say it, but it's a badass name. It's Japan's version of the Cy Young. But he's done that in the last 2 seasons and has won the Triple Crown not once, not twice, but 3 years in a row. He might be one of the most hyped pitching prospects to be posted by Japan in a long time. Maybe since Daisuke Matsusaka, I don't know. But his age, being able to slide right away into a number 1 role, I could see so many teams line up to get him, and I think the Boston Red Sox make a ton of sense. They have some big time prospects coming through their system as well. They haven't been good the past couple of years, which isn't Red Sox baseball. They always compete. They need rotation help very badly, and they're not scared to spend money. They are like the Yankees, but maybe a little lesser version. Signing a guy to a 7-year, $200 million contract, it's not going to scare them away if they believe the fit's right and the player's legit. Yamamoto could be that guy. I'm very excited to see him pitch in the States next year. Now we got the guy everybody's talking about, Shohei Otani. I personally believe Shohei Otani is going to be able to pick any team he wants to play for, which no other player in baseball can say. Reason being is any team he goes for, the investment and the money that they spend, they are going to get so much return on that investment just because you're going to have all the eyes of the baseball world on you. Merch is going to be flying off shelves, tickets, and on top of that, anywhere Shohei Otani goes, you also get the entire Japanese market watching you as well. That's why I've been saying a team like the Cincinnati Reds, who are close, who need pitching, could use another bat. Not really, but it's Shohei Otani, you make room. Could sign a guy like Otani to a 10-year, $500 million contract. Because even though they're a small market, I feel like being a businessman, if an owner sees like you're spending $500 million, but you'll end up getting $2 billion back in revenue or something, like you'd be stupid not to do it. So I could see a team like the Reds, the Cubs, somebody like that making a run at him, but ultimately I think he goes to the Dodgers. I think that's where he wants to play. The Angels really fucked up the deadline last year, and now he goes to their rival right across the street in the Dodgers. He won't pitch in 2024 due to an arm injury, but but he's still an MVP caliber hitter that'll hit you 40 home runs. So I think they'll be okay. So those are the top free agents available this offseason. Now let's talk about some of the top trade candidates available. Starting out with Pete Alonso. There's been rumors that the Brewers tried to acquire him at the trade deadline last year. There are rumors that the Cubs might try to trade for him this offseason. Ultimately, I think he stays. I don't think Steve Cohen, the players, or anybody want him to leave. I think they'll end up agreeing to an extension this offseason, so I don't think he's going anywhere. Now we got Willy Adames. The Brewers have three very good players who are trade candidates in Willy Adames, Brandon Woodruff, Corbin Burns. So we could see a mini fire sale in Milwaukee. And one team that needs a shortstop is the Atlanta Braves. The Braves shortstop last year was Orlando Arcia. Had the best season of his career. I just can't see that sustaining over a long period of time. And trading for Willy Adames is not going to cost a ton. So I think Willy Adames, who has 1 year remaining on his contract, goes to the Atlanta Braves for a pair of right-handed pitchers. One being J.R. Ritchie and the other being Cole Phillips, the Braves' number 6 and 7 prospect. The Braves have one of, if not the worst farm systems in baseball. So a 6 or 7 prospect for them is going to be like a team's 25 prospect for any other team. These are two solid pitchers, but they are definitely not 10 prospects in almost any other system. J.R. Ritchie has very average stuff across the board, but a very good slider. And Cole Phillips has a big-time fastball, but not a huge pitch repertoire. Could transition more to a relief role, more unlikely down the road. Braves get a shortstop that can help them win a World Series this year. Brewers are one of the best teams at developing pitching. They get 2 pitchers they can work with. Bkindel of the Mariners has been surfacing in trade rumors over the past year, and I don't get why. He still has like 4 years control left, and he's very good. A frontline starter for a team who is finally trying to make the playoffs and compete. So yeah, there are teams that are going to be lining up to acquire him, but if you're the Mariners, he's still cheap, and he's very good, and you're trying to win. Why would you trade him? I've never understood that rumor. Logan Gilbert, he ends up staying with the Mariners for the foreseeable future. Dylan Cease, on the other hand, I think it's time to say bye-bye, pack his bag, send him off to the Baltimore Orioles. He has 2 years remaining on his contract. We talked about Eduardo Rodriguez ending up going to Baltimore and how they're alright, very good at the major league level, but need rotation help, and they still have a ton of pieces in the minor league system. Why not trade some of those minor league pieces to get another frontline starter? Then all of a sudden your rotation, which was an issue, is looking very good, and you haven't depleted the major league team at all. So I have Dylan Cease going to the Orioles for Samuel Basala, a 19-year-old catcher who hit 20 home runs last year. Dude's got some pop in his bat. I think eventually he moves over to first base. Jordan Westbrook, who got a taste of the big leagues last year and did okay. And Creed Williams, who is a minor league catcher, but still has some tools that they can work with. White Sox are going through a rebuild and get 2 top pieces and then a player they can work with. And the Orioles get a starter that they'll have for 2 more years and can try and make a run at the World Series with. There's just so many pitching trade candidates this year. Shane Bieber could be another name floated around. He has 1 year left on his contract, so why not do an interstate trade? Let's get crazy. Let's have him go to the Cincinnati Reds, who we've talked about. Need pitching. They signed Sonny Gray. Let's add 1 more and get a frontline starter in Shane Bieber for a player teams are asking about. And a straight up trade for Jonathan India. Not a huge playing opportunity for him in Cincinnati. Definitely will be in Cleveland. And overall, this seems like a win-win trade for both teams. The only thing that I could see the Reds holding back on is Biebs only has 1 year left on his deal, and the Reds don't like to spend a ton of money, so I don't know if they'd even consider locking him up to an extension. Or Jonathan India has been pretty productive, and he has 3 years left on his deal. So I think ultimately the Guardians would agree to this, but I'm unsure if the Reds would. But it's a deal that makes a ton of sense for both teams. The Juan Soto rumors are kind of crazy to me. Coming off an MVP type season, the Padres season last year made no sense because their offensive metrics and pitching metrics were amongst tops in the league. It just didn't work out in year 1. But Juan Soto has 1 year left on his deal and is coming off a season which he put MVP type numbers. Still only 25. So they could trade him and get a haul back, but nowhere near as much as what they gave up to get him from the Nationals. Or they could make 1 more run at it and maybe sign him to an extension, maybe make the playoffs, win the World Series, whatever. So I think they keep Juan Soto at least through the first half of the season. Once we get to the deadline, if they're out of it, they'll obviously trade him. But this offseason, no reason to look at it right now. Then we got 2 more pitching trade candidates. Start out with Tyler Glasnow, has 1 year left on his contract. He's battled injuries throughout his career, but when he pitches, he is lights out, one of the better starters in the game. And and I have the Tampa Bay Rays trading him to division rival Boston Red Sox. Red Sox are going to be looking for a lot of pitching this offseason, and interdivision trades like this don't normally happen, especially for two teams trying to compete for the division crown. So before anyone says anything, the Red Sox are going to have to overpay in order to get him on their team. It's the only way a deal between these two teams will get done. I do think this is a win-win deal for both teams. So the Red Sox end up getting Tyler Glasnow, and the Rays get Ceddanna Rafael, who is a center fielder slash shortstop who has back-to-back 2020 seasons, and he plays gold glove type defense in center field. Johan Fran Garcia, who is the catcher, and Brian Mata, a starting pitcher. A lot for the Red Sox to give up. I think ultimately if things go well for Glasnow, he stays healthy, he has a good season. The Red Sox are a team that's open to spending a lot of money, so they could re-sign him as well. But as we've all learned in the baseball world, make a trade with the Tampa Bay Rays never works out because all three of these guys will end up being all-star players. We talked about why the Brewers might sign somebody like Jack Flaherty. A lot of question marks in the rotation of who's going to even be on team next year. I can't see Corbin Burnes being there. Here I bashed the team last year about how they handled the arbitration process with him. He's not re-signing. Brewers are not offering a $250 million contract to a starting pitcher. So why not trade him to a team that needs pitching, especially considering Shohei Otani, who I think is going to sign with them, and Clayton Kershaw may not pitch at all in 2024 for him. And Julio Urias, piece of shit, he might never pitch again. They need rotation help, and they've already said they're going to look into trading for Corbin Burnes. The Los Angeles Dodgers. I have Corbin Burnes going to the Dodgers for Michael Busch, a second and third baseman who can hit but has a lot of defensive question marks. Gavin Stone, who is a 25-year-old starting pitcher with some pretty good stuff, including one of the best changeups in all of minor league baseball. And then Dayron Lorenzo, who is a 20-year-old switch-hitting catcher, coming off a 24 home run campaign in Able. Dodgers have had too high of a payroll and too good of teams to not make a World Series. 2020 doesn't count. We don't count that shit here. So they need to spend the bag and get some pieces, which in this prediction video they have, so they get the top of the rotation starter they need, and the Brewers get some bats in Michael Busch, who will be 26 by opening day, but could start for them from day one, let his defense develop, give him some time with the bat. He's raked in the minor leagues, didn't fare too well in majors last year, but they could give him all next year. Gavin Stone's also 25. He's somebody that can slot right into that rotation for them, and then what they run, it's somebody that they can slowly develop. It's a good bat piece to have. And then I told you to stick around because we got some surprises. Why not talk about some things that odds are not going to happen, but man, it would be fun if they did. And the first one is I have the Milwaukee Brewers non-tendering Brandon Woodruff. About a month ago, unthinkable. He had 1 year left, and he's one of the best starters in baseball, at least most underrated. He has 1 year left and is going to miss most, if not all, of next year. So if you're the Brewers, you got a few options. You can either non-tender him, sign him to a 2-year deal, so this way he can rehab and then pitch in 2025, see if you can get some value out of him, or sign him to a 2-year deal and trade him off. So I think they're going to either trade him off, but in this instance, I'm going to go with non-tender. I can't see a team like the Brewers wanting to spend $11 million, which is what his expected arbitration case is going to be, for a pitcher who's not going to even play for them next year. Even if you sign him for a 2-year deal and he can play in 2025 for you, that's $11 million on the books that you're getting nothing out of. Small market team like the Brewers, I can't see doing it. That's why I'm going with the non-tender route here. Or at least trade maybe. Maybe get a few pieces, but I don't know how many teams are going to actually trade anything for him. And that I have Brandon Woodruff signing a 2-year deal with the Tampa Bay Rays. The Rays traded Tyler Glasnow to the Red Sox. Signing Woodruff to a 2-year deal lets him rehab all this year. $11 million for the Brewers means a lot more to them than it does to the Rays. The Brewers have a payroll in the $120 to $40 million range by end of season. The Rays payroll is like $50 million every year. They got no money on the books. And then in 2025, if you get Brandon Woodruff anything close to what he has been into the past, like I'm just going to say 2024, probably going to be a punt year for the Rays. They got so many pitchers coming back from Tommy John surgery, it's ridiculous. They got like 3-4 guys. But then in 2025, you'll have Shane McClanahan, Brandon Woodruff, Drew Rasmussen, Jeffrey Springs. I think they'll still have Aaron Savali, Shane Bass. The rotation will be stacked 1 through 5, and they'll have depth options. It's at least a fun idea to consider. This one, not gonna happen, but the realm of possibility has opened up a little bit this offseason, with Mike Trout saying he'd be open to the idea of trade, same with the Angels. They're both open to the idea of a departure. From Mike Trout's perspective, you've made the playoff once in your 13-year career. From the Angels' perspective, you're paying a guy $400 million who's always hurt. So here's this crazy shit. I have Mike Trout getting traded with Jo Adell, once considered a top 10 prospect, still only 25 years old. He needs a change of scenery in the worst possible way. Plus a shit ton of cash. Like, I'm talking back the brink truck up with $200 million in cash. Going to the Philadelphia Phillies for Griff McGarry, who is a starting pitcher, and Carlos De La Cruz, who is a 6'8" outfielder with a shit ton of power. The Phillies' number 5 and 6 prospect. The Phillies end up getting Mike Trout to pair with Bryce Harper, Trey Turner, Kyle Schwarber, Nick Castellanos, and already a stacked offense. Doesn't seem like payroll affects them even in the slightest way. They get a project piece in Jo Adell just to see if you can get anything out of him, and a ton of money to put towards Mike Trout's contract. And the Angels, who have virtually no farm system, like it's them and the Braves for the worst farm system in baseball. They're up there, they're bad. And they also have no pieces on their major league team that anybody's can trade anything of value for. They're literally in MLB hell right now. A lot of big contracts, no prospects, no guys to trade. In this deal, you get the number 5 and 6 Phillies prospect. Both 24, both in AAA, both big league ready. McGarry has a big time fastball and some above average stuff across the board, but struggles with command. And De La Cruz is a big guy. He's like Aaron Judge size and has big time power. But of course, with big time power comes a lot of swing and miss issues.